Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be talking about another episode from Season 7, The Pinup. Recently I spoke with Mary McDonough, and this was one of the episodes we touched on. So we talked about the relationship of Erin in this segment, so I thought I would talk about some of the other elements in this episode. If you are enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. The catalyst in this story has to do with Ben, who is doing some amateur photography. He's been shooting a lot of scenery around the mountain, and he comes home just at the point that Erin is coming downstairs in a short crop top and very short shorts, and she says, "Take a picture of me." He has one shot left on the roll of film, and she says, "Well, we'll send something to Mama." So she goes over and hops on the piano bench and has this fun picture taken. Later on, Ben is at Ike's store getting his prints back from being developed, and Ike mentions that there is a magazine that is accepting pictures from amateur photographers. Ben takes the pictures over, drops them off. Well, this is the beginning of a whole adventure. Erin suddenly finds herself a pinup cover girl and the sweetheart of Camp Lee, the local army base. Daddy is not at all happy about this, and Ben is in real hot water, even though it was an accident. Erin is at first mortified, but then when she starts getting all this attention and all these letters from soldiers saying that, how much they admire her and how she reminds them of their girl back home, and finds that she is just the center of some really positive attention. She finds it fun and is secretly very happy it happened. As Erin and Mary Ellen are reading this various different fan mail, Mary Ellen finds herself giving Erin relationship advice because all these boys are writing to Erin because of her looks without really knowing who she is. And of course, Mary Ellen feels like Erin should be admired for who she is, not just how she looks. And Mary and I spoke about that recently also. Another fun scene later on where Erin, Elizabeth, and Mary Ellen are all reading the fan mail, and it just reminded me of all of us getting fan mail on the Waltons and how lovely so much of that was, and what wonderful things people had to say about the show and about our characters and how much they related to them growing up. There's a more serious subplot as Mary Ellen has finally decided to go back to nursing, and she's at the hospital and encounters a young woman that she knows whose child, infant, toddler, has gotten into something in the house when the mom just turned away for a moment, and the child is now in the emergency room and doesn't make it. This really impacts Mary Ellen, who then hurries home and just becomes really obsessive about John Curtis, where he is, wanting to know where he is. She decides to give up the nursing again for now and devote her time to being the best mother she can, but in a really overprotective way. But in the hospital, it was kind of nice to have David Spencer back. He is the emergency room doctor that we see at the beginning, and then he comes by the house trying to convince Mary Ellen that she should continue with the nursing, and that she can have room in her life for both the nursing and for being a mother. And she's not really ready for that in that moment. But it was lovely to have Bob Woods back again as David Spencer. Also in this episode, we see actor Kip Niven playing the lieutenant at Camp Lee. Later on, in later episodes, Kip was back as Reverend Marshall. He did 3 episodes as one of the series of reverends that we had during the course of the series. As it turns out, despite being as protective as she can be, Mary Ellen looks away for a moment or two, and John Curtis has wandered off. I think most parents have probably had that experience at some time, and it is heart-stopping. In this case, we see a lot of John Curtis wandering through the woods. People have asked me how we filmed that. What I seem to recall is it was always safe areas. And so what they could do in a situation like this is have something at one end of where, like behind where the camera is, but off camera. And if they wanted John Curtis looking back, then they, make some sort of a noise or distraction, or someone calls him from behind and he kind of turns around. And then have also someone speak to him near camera. So if they wanted him then to come forward, then someone would call him forward. I think a lot of it then was just happy circumstance of what his natural behavior was, and some just darling things. He looks at things and checks around and probably heard noises. So just things for him to explore. I know when we finally got to the bridge sequence, that was a little different because we were dealing with a bridge over actual water. In that case, I remember there being safety people in the water. They were obviously out of sight of the camera, but they were there just in case, for some reason, the young toddler decided that the water looked interesting and wanted to go check it out, or fell, or anything that could have been potentially hazardous. So, and then, of course, we were at one end, I was at one end, Ralph was at the other end, and between the two of us, John Curtis then went forward to John, and there was a beautiful little reunion moment there. So this, of course, was all edited together very carefully. So there would be short little segments of where you'd see John Curtis in one spot, and then they'd be in another part of the jungle, and they'd set that up. So he would only really travel through small little sections, and all in very protected areas. But watching it back, I found it so sweet, the number of just real moments that they caught on camera, and what fun the little boy seemed to be having, being out loose and exploring all of this. It's just a little playground for him. But he was always safe. And ultimately, lessons about letting go, and that we need to do that with our children. As Mary Ellen learns to let go of John Curtis, let him live his life protected, but not overprotected. And also letting go and trusting Erin to make responsible choices. And as she is invited to go speak and be a guest of honor at Camp Lee, and Kip Niven as lieutenant comes to personally escort her and ask permission to take her, and Mary Ellen sort of challenges Daddy to let Erin go, and he does. So, little life lesson for a number of the characters. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the pinup. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.